to another episode of Adventures in the Land of Ode. This is episode 2. Right now I'm standing on top of a really old relic of this server. It's called David's Tower. It's one of the most original, if not, I think it's probably the oldest structure that you'll find on the server. It's at the very top of the original kind of base location that I had when we first started the server. Myself, my friend David, who actually constructed the tower, and Toil53, who still actively plays on the server. And so this was their kind of original base of operations. Now you can see behind me there is the replica tower that we constructed because we felt like this one looked a little lonely. And you can see behind me, this is what we're going to be looking at today. This is Marlowe's tree, constructed by myself a while back. Yeah, it's probably, it was one of the larger builds that I constructed on here. It was maybe a couple of years ago, so it's a fairly recent build relative to the age of the server, but we're gonna look at it today. So as I mentioned, it is called Marlowe's tree, and using a combination of manually growing a bunch of jungle trees and just kind of harvesting and constructing, I built this thing, and it's kind of well, you can see there's some holes in here, and I'll come up here maybe. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. That might have been intentional right there, but there are some unintentional holes here. Unfortunately, at one point in server's history, we had some griefers on here. Yikes! It wasn't fun. They came to this tree among a couple other locations on the server and just decided they wanted to torch the place. Thankfully, they weren't to the level where they had TNT, so nothing was really, severely damaged. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that the tree is not more damaged than it is. There's just kind of a couple holes in the stairwells and things like that. But it is okay. They're banned now, so we don't have to worry about that anymore, but it is kind of unfortunate. Now you notice the interiors are a little bare. I had every intention of kind of coming back to this and maybe kind of cleaning it up and making it, doing some improvements, and that sort of thing. But like a lot of things on this server, it just kind of never happened. But that's okay. I think it still turned out fairly well, as is. It's a lovely landmark from a distance. Oh, yeah, you can see this is one of the things that I never really got to is completely lighting this place up. So there's going to be a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, but there's going to be some mobs. Hopefully no creepers. We'll see what happens. Yeah, again, unintentional holes, not my fault. I've kind of been a little, so yeah, I've been a little bit lazy about coming back in here even to fix up the holes. There was some repair work that I did on the very base of the tree, but I kind of left it pretty much in the state that it was when, speak of the devil, right? Let's see, oh, no. I love the crossbow. I love how piercing allows you to pick up arrows even when you actually already hit you hit your target. You used to not be able to do that with just a bow, but piercing allows you to do that. Anyway, so yeah, interior's a little bare. Maybe one day I'll come back and make it look like somebody actually lives here, maybe. Of course nobody does, but if I wanted to kind of give that illusion, maybe someday. So we're at the very top of the tree, and of course there's a zombie up here. That's how it goes. So there's this is the very top. We can go out on the branches right here, and this is probably, wow, it's a parrot. I've not found any parrots on this server, actually. I haven't really been gone looking for them, but I didn't realize they would spawn in old terrain. But there you go. It's the Marlow tree parrot. Um, Anyways, this is, in my personal opinion, one of the best views of kind of the ground zero of spawn. Um, we're at Y level, what, 153? It's specifically taller than naturalist talling tree in the jungle, which would be that guy over there. I did that on purpose because obviously, if you're making a huge man-made tree, then it's naturally got to be bigger than any of the other trees that spawn naturally. So, but yeah, here's a kind of a different view of spawn, kind of a reward for people who actually make the trek up here. So that's Marlow's tree. Let's take a look at some of the other builds that we can see from here. This is the unnamed ice castle. It's again kind of like Marlow's tree, bare interior. So I'm not gonna actually go into it, but it's kind of what you see is what you get. I wanted to build with ice, and that's kind of what I did. Made these kind of fun little wing things. I kind of like it. We've got the Dock Captain Sandcastle over there, and his netherrack monster thing that's flaming, and you see it at night, and it's pretty awesome. Fletch Can's original home, I don't know, it kind of boxy, but you know, to each his own. This, what you see behind the ice castle, was a village. It was actually a man-made village, so we constructed this whole thing, and then as you can see, all the houses are gone because I was working on this was a villager breeder that worked with the 1.13 mechanics before before the village and pillage update, the one that kind of changed like all villager mechanics. Yeah, that one. So this was working, and I had so many villagers going on up here that I had to filter them up, and just I had this big kind of weird housing unit for a whole bunch of villagers. There's actually still a whole bunch in there right now, and they're just out of render distance, so you can't actually see them. Maybe one day we'll actually come back and fix this up again. Lots of goals, lots of goals on the server, but we'll see what actually happens in the end. This is a new building by Toil 53, Sunset Trading facility or building. I forget what he actually called it, but this is going to be. We don't actually have a stable or a consistent way of trading with other players on here, so he's been kind of heading that up with Terzi to actually get that off the ground. Speaking of Toil 53, this is another one of his builds over here. You can kind of just barely see it. It's called Sandstone Hinge, which I thought was a clever name. Some of it's kind of getting clipped because we're a little bit on the edge of render distance here, but and behind that, what you can't see over there in that direction, is going to be Odenseen Castle, which I will tour at a later date, but just not for the time being. I think I'll show you that next. That is, well, let me just take you over there and we'll check it out. All right, we're back. This is my kind of jungle temple Aztec inspired build. Built it a couple months ago. It may have been a year now. Don't quite remember. Again, lighting is not perfect, but I felt like I kind of soiled the view with if I put a whole bunch of torch spam everywhere. Of course, there's a couple torches that's those are intentional, but I felt like it just looked a lot prettier with not a whole lot of torch spam going on. I actually built a gold farm to construct this because, as you can see, there's a lot of gold in this build. So I actually constructed one for the very purpose of this build. And so that I will show that off at a later date as well. Um, I'm hoping to actually tour some of the more technical builds, so the farms and things like that. I'll show those off at a later date. I was actually really proud of this flooring. I thought it was kind of cool. It was really kind of my first experience working with the terracotta blocks, and of course I mixed in some concrete, and I really loved these red nether brick blocks. I think they look really nice. Again, the interior is a little simple, but this is kind of fun. We've got this like nice gold throne thing. I don't really know what this building doesn't really serve, or this build doesn't serve a purpose other than just being just kind of really cool looking, in my opinion. Yeah, the magma block core kind of floating in the sky. That was fun to put together. It does have a secret, which people that playing on this server, I don't know if it's probably going to be a surprise to them. I don't know if they'd seen this before, but they've got this little lever right here. Let me kill this spider, and let me kill the zombie. You guys are really intruding on this base tour. There's a little secret passage. This was, again, working with slime blocks and pistons, and of course I've always loved piston doors, you know, ever since I first started man, he came out of nowhere, didn't he? Well, like I said, when you don't light up the place, you have creepers come in and blow stuff up. I promise this looked a lot nicer before he just did that. Yeah. I wonder if the piston door still works. But yeah, I've been playing this Minecraft for, you know, years now, so I've always kind of loved piston doors and things like that. But here's, you know, kind of a little secret room that I constructed. The kind of lava chamber column things you saw, this is the same one. They just kind of drift down, and added this little effect with the magma kind of leaking out. I thought it was kind of fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, not really functional, just kind of trying to play around with builds and be creative. It's one of the things I like to do on this server. So yeah, despite the fact that this is kind of in ruins now, I think we're done with this tour. Let me see if there's anything else that I can show you guys. So here's the next build I wanted to show you guys. This is the desert village. It was an original, you know, vanilla village that we discovered, and in an attempt to kind of improve on it and protect the villagers and stuff like that, we kind of built it up. It's as you can see, not too far from the original base and Marlowe's tree and all that where we were before. Yeah, so we built this huge wall around, and we put a little lip to it to try to avoid spiders. And, you know, the iron golems were added when we first created this world, which brings me to another point. I actually made a mistake in the previous video. I said that we had started this server out in beta terrain. That's actually incorrect. Toil53 corrected me on that. It was actually version 1.2 release version that I think we started this server on. I didn't realize that terrain generation had changed post official Minecraft release, but apparently it had. Toil corrected me on that, so we're good there. Anyways, back to this. So iron golems had just been introduced to the game, and I've always had a fascination with them. So we wanted to kind of build up the village and get it big enough, because I think if I remember correctly, it required like 21 villagers for one iron golem. So I was always trying to get them to spawn naturally, and of course I didn't really know the optimal, tactics or anything like that. So just built up a whole bunch of houses. We're going to see in a second. I also wanted to talk about put this cactus wall here too, just as an extra layer of protection. Yeah, it's fairly effective. Zombies get stuck in there and they get completely wrecked, which is kind of fun. But so here's the original village. A couple of these are original buildings. Like here's the good old blacksmith. Everybody loves the blacksmith building, right? Yeah, it is fantastic. There's nothing like the blacksmith building. Nothing will ever come close to being like the blacksmith building. We looted it, of course, when we first got here. Anyway, so there are a couple of villagers left here. Village was in pretty bad shape a couple months ago. I think there was maybe only like 2 or 3 left. But we came in here and again with the cheaty villager breeder mechanics. I came in here. I think this is an Impulse SV design. They're all fairly similar, but yeah, it was another villager breeder that I constructed. Had the alternate effect of giving us some iron golems. Not really sure what happened there. I think one of them actually was already spawned. He just walked in here, but at some point we had enough that it spawned another one actually in the middle of the breeder, which is to be expected because I think it's considered it was the center of spawn. We had a lot of doors, and of course everywhere, but for that project I kind of went through and just wiped out all the doors. There were a lot of villagers. I don't know where they've gone now, but there were a lot of villagers that spawned because of that breeder, and of course they're around places. I've taken a couple from this village to Odensine Castle, which is right there, to start my own kind of trading hall over there with the 114 mechanics. Still working on that, still working on getting it together. But yeah, this is a fun project. Of course, just building off of vanilla structures is a little fun because of course they're pretty plain and simple to begin with. So being able to come through and make some improvements was fun. This was really kind of one of the first seems like community projects that we had here, and we've had a couple since then. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think Toyle built this building, and he lived in it for a really long time. I think all of his junk is still in the chest. Yeah, this is all Toyle's junk. But anyway, here is where I've been working. This is actually a rail system that goes to Odensine Castle, where I'm working on my trading hall. And there will be another video where I go to the castle and kind of show stuff off. But that'll probably do it for the Desert Village, and it'll probably do it for this episode. Hope you guys have enjoyed seeing a couple of the builds and things around spawn. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Be sure to let me know if you are. And thanks for tuning in, and hope to see you in the next video.